Myself, Tejas. My topic for assignment presentation is Doctrine of Public Accountability. Introduction. When the Confucius disciple Zedong asked him about the government more than 2000 years ago, he stated three things that a government required: weapons, food, and trust. He said that if the ruler cannot keep his hold on all three, he should first give up weapons and then food. However, that should be guarded till the end is trust, because without trust we cannot stand. The need for public accountability exists due to the need for a relationship of trust between the public sector and the public. It is about the principle of illustrating reliability, competence, and honesty in manner to permit the public to judge their leaders and trust them in handling their money and resources. Public accountability. Public accountability in itself has a wide-reaching ambit. However, public accountability must be understood in the context of relationship between the general public and its government. Democratic countries have been founded upon the establishment of an elected legislature, and on that account a system of checks and balances. It has multiple authorities that are independent of each other and have power to hold each other accountable. In India, public accountability is a product of its federal structure, consisting of a two-way process. The first one is upward accountability, and second one is downward accountability. In upward accountability, control of the government, such as jurisdiction to dissolve, approve, and audit fiscal plans of administrative authorities. In downward accountability, this is a weaker authority as it trusts the public only through the power of electoral process. Evolution of the doctrine. The doctrine of public accountability has continued to evolve in cases that have been argued and debated in the courts. The case of Attorney General of Hong Kong versus Reid, 1993. It is one of the most illustrative cases of bribery and constructive trust. A remedy for a party who has been deprived of his rights because a person has taken possession of his property by illegal means. In this case, a crown-appointed prosecutor was paid bribes to bury criminal cases. He used this bribe money to buy certain properties. The court held that a gift received and accepted by a public official as payment for the breach of his public duties constitutes bribery. In addition, it was held that there was a fiduciary duty such that the owners were constructive trustees of the ground. This meant that the money was owed to the person aggrieved by the trustee that he had hold money acquired as a constructive trust. This case was followed up in India by the Supreme Court in the case of Attorney General of India versus Amritpal Prajivandas. This case dealt with the validity of the SAFE Act 1976, which mandates the release of assets obtained as inducements for smuggling or other dishonest acts. The doctrine was further elaborated in the famous case of DDA versus Skipper Construction Corporation, 1996. Key elements of the doctrine. The doctrine of public accountability encompasses several key elements, such as answerability, transparency, responsibility, participation, and enforcement and consequences. In answerability, public officials and institutions are expected to provide explanations and justifications for their decisions and actions. They should be accountable for their performance and the outcomes of their decisions. Transparency. The principle of transparency requires that information regarding government activities, policies, and decisions can be readily accessible to the public. Openness and disclosure foster public trust and enable citizens to hold public officials accountable. Responsibility. Public officials are entrusted with the public resources and powers, and they are responsible for their management and use. They should act in the best interest of the public, ensuring efficient and effective use of resources while adhering to legal ethical standards. Participation. Public accountability involves engaging citizens in the decision making process and enabling their active participation in governance. Public input and feedback can enhance accountability by providing diverse perspectives and holding decision makers accountable for their actions. Enforcement and consequences. Public accountability mechanisms should include appropriate mechanisms for monitoring, evaluation, and enforcement. When public officials fail to meet their obligations or engage in misconduct, there should be consequences such as disciplinary actions and other legal remedies. And the doctrine of public accountability serves as a check on the exercise of power and promotes responsible governance. It helps to prevent abuse of authority, corruption, and negligence while fostering trust and legitimacy in public institutions. Indian scenario. In Indian scenario, public accountability in India lacks practical application. System of formal accountability such as right to information acts and experiments with e-governance are being introduced all over the country. The RTA Act 2005 has been passed, but enforcement and monitoring are neglected. Mandates are formulated and funds are allocated to the public bodies, but the government fails to educate, assess, and punish them to hold them accountable. While the accounts are publicly audited and parliamentary reviews are conducted regularly, follow-up would most likely make one wish for more transparency. In this circumstance, it obvious that the formal mechanisms work as long as there is a real accountability on the ground. The RTA Act 2005 plays an important role for this doctrine. Can be attributed to the lack of information about the workings of government. The Supreme Court in S.C. Gupta versus the President of India 1981 has commented on the importance of the open government, stating that the requirements of openness of the government is rooted in the fact that exercising the right to vote, electing leaders for the next 5 years, and then being passive without any interest in the government. It is not the nature of democracy. Case laws. In Raj Narain versus State of Uttar Pradesh, the court held that there can be no secrets in government whose representatives are held accountable for their conduct. In 1982, S.C. Gupta, the court explained the positive trend of liberal democracy towards the open government and stated that India should not be an exception to this new democratic culture. And in 1997, Dinesh Trivedi versus Union of India, it was held that ensure public participation in democratic process, important decisions of government and their basis should be communicated. Importance of the doctrine. Public corruption is as old as public administration itself. The drive of the countries to become social welfare states has inevitably led to an expansion of bureaucracy, both in the size and number. The expansion has subsequently led to an enormous amount of work for their administrative authorities and the use of their discretion and power. It is an old adage that discretion and power always carry with them possibility of abuse. In its 14th report, the Law Commission had highlighted the disturbing extent to which administrative action in India can go unchecked as authorities use their discretionary powers without public accountability. It also pointed the increasing number of administrative decisions evident in the proliferation of administrative tribunals. The issue of public accountability is closely related to the issues of the executive responsibility, delegated legislation, and jurisdiction. And the main body for enforcing public accountability is the Central Bureau of Investigation (CBI). It is used to be under the executive, but this overshadowed its purpose of enforcing accountability in the government itself. Due to its lack independence, hence it was separated from the Supreme Court and placed under the Central Vigilance Commission (CVC). The court issued for directions to ensure that the purpose of the CBI was not compromised, and to make it in the main body for enforcing transparency in government functions. Conclusion. The task of the government does not come to an end after creating institutions, laws and measures. It's when the real job of making sure these laws are effective starts. Indian judiciary has been proactive in the area of public administration and evolution of this doctrine. However, if corruption is not tackled with proper accountability for the execution of roles, becomes a long lost dream. By passing legislation such the RTA Act 2005, the government has illustrated its intention to establish good governance. However, a lot still needs to be done to ensure effective application of this act, and that comes with public officials taking a step forward to ensure rightful usage of taxpayers' monies and transparency of the government. Small steps such as implementation of performance appraisal mechanism for honest officials can go a long way to incentivize other officials to follow the suit. Thank you.